And this was some amazing creative partners that put this together. I'm going to bring them up right now. We have representing kind of the different sectors that put this film together, and then we're going to bring up a lot of people that actually contributed that you saw their work. First of all, I'd like to bring up Tim Partridge from YouTube, who had a lot to do with this, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Tim, you can take a seat. We have Liza Marshall from Scott Free, who's one of the producers. We also have Joe Walker, the editor. No small feat. And needs no introduction. I'd like to bring up the director, Kevin Macdonald. Congratulations. I think your mic is over there. This is going to be a little confusing, but we're going to get through this. We have here 24 contributors. Are you on? We need to get him on.
Okay, so
there we go.
As you can see, I'm only one of 390 directors on this film. I think we're trying to put IMDb out of business, like really confusing them. And Joe will tell me it's not 390. I don't know. He knows all the facts and the figures. It's something like that. But we have with us here just a few of the people who made the film possible, who directed elements of the film. So, can I ask you all to come up? All the filmmakers, everyone in front and behind the camera who is here, can you all please come up right now? So I'm very quickly just going to introduce you to who these people are. Obviously some of them you recognize. I hope you recognize. But there are some who were behind the camera. So doing the Egyptian family in the boat, there's Christina and Aymun, and maybe you can just stand up. Maybe I should just introduce them, then you should clap at the end. Otherwise, we're going to be here all night, aren't we? So there's Hiroaki and Taiji from Japan. There we go. There's Renat and Alexander from Russia, the fantastic parkour sequence. I'm sure he'll do something for us later. There is the marvelous Betsy. Betsy, where are you? There's Harvey, who shot the Dubai gardener, there he is. There's Alberto, Abel, and Avelino from Peru. There's Boris, who shot the amazing goat herders and sheep herded footage. There's Christopher, who is not in love with Emily anymore, I hope. There's Soma from Bali. There's David from New York. And there's Bobby, Catherine, and Bob from near Chicago. And unfortunately, there were two people who couldn't be here who we wanted to come here. One was the wonderful photographer in Kabul, and he couldn't get his visa in time, unfortunately. So we'll blame the State Department. And the other person is the cyclist, the Korean cyclist, who is not here, but the filmmaker who shot that is Marek, who is here. And then finally from New York, who shot all sorts of beautiful footage in there, in all different kinds of kids and all sorts of things, is Karen.
Oh, sorry. So what we're doing also as well is we're going to be taking questions from the outside world. This is Joe Byer here, and he's filtering questions from outside. And we've been actually getting questions all day long about this project. So I'm going to start with, we have to kind of just give, or we'll just keep hitting back to it, kind of a little bit of an outline of the process as quickly as possible, because it was such an undertaking. Can you just take us through the process, how you got this done?
I'll give you the really short version. Effectively, YouTube, Tim here and Liza spoke originally about doing a film, and then they came to me, and we worked on the idea and figured out, you know, what we were going to do. And then Joe came on board as the editor, and also, as I call him to be annoying, the head of information technology, because there was so much technical mumbo jumbo to deal with. Just one little thing, there was 60 different frame rates of video involved in this. So somebody had to figure out what all that was. We had a whole bunch of people, 24, 25 people, sitting in a sweaty little room viewing everything, because there were 4,500 hours of material in total that came into us. And they viewed it and gave it star systems, and we looked at the best stuff. And then we spent a few months viewing that and editing it and having a lot of fun.
Did you have to invent any technology just to do this? I mean,
nothing is, you can't pull technology off the shelf for this, so it's a combination of many different bits and pieces and a lot of, trial and error, actually a lot of error. But, I think next time around we'll get it licked.
I hope we hit on all these things, but for me, I thought the music was amazing. I thought it added.
Well, we should say that he's not up here, because I think he didn't want to come up, but Harry Gregson Williams, who did the most incredible moving music, is here. He's over there. Harry, will you please stand up? I know you're probably too embarrassed to, but there he is, very shy.
Oh. And I thought that you proved that a simple story can tell so much about us all. And even what I also thought was very interesting, and probably was a little bit of a nightmare for you, the difference between some very amazing photographers that you had mixed with the very raw and almost amateurish and that. And also, it was kind of an uncanny, not newsworthy day, almost by luck. You had that one,
the one big thing that happened,
which you have to put in,
was the kind of tragedy in Love Parade in Germany. Right. And other than that, yeah, nothing much happened. So in a way, you were focused on not on the big events, but on the kind of the ground eye view, the ordinary person on the street's view of life. And that's sort of the point. It's sometimes even the banal details can be the most telling, and it can be the most familiar and touching to us to view.
And I thought when I watched it the first time, I was a little bit in a panic of how you were going to end this thing. And I thought the ending you found in that girl right over there, Betty, was pretty perfect.
Yeah, she's fantastic. She pretty much summed up the whole film. And when we found that, and we found your piece of video, see, none of these guys have seen this before, so they're all in a bit of a state of shock. They didn't know quite what to expect, but that was the first thing that we found, almost, wasn't it, Joe? We knew that was going to be the ending.
It was really early on. I think it was about the end of the first week of looking at material, and with the researchers, we were just looking like a normal film, looking at dailies and trying to find what the material was telling us the film was going to be. We had no great preconceptions, and I think we saw very early on some of the moon shots, and we saw Betsy in the car, and I think we had a beginning and an end, and we just had to join it up.
And I've been looking at questions all day long, and the one that keeps coming up, funny, that was not on my list, is what you personally, each one of you, was the one thing that you thought that you had to put in the film. Because I guess you made such a personal film that they want to know your personal, like, what was a shot that you saw and go, this is it for me?
Wow, that's really hard, because there were so many of them, and I think, the moons, we didn't know it was a full moon that night, and so we didn't do our research, obviously, and so when all these moons started coming in, and I saw all these, the beginning of the film, you've got, 6 or 7 moons, and they're from Malawi and Venezuela and South Africa and somewhere in the States and all over the world. And I suddenly saw that that was the kind of metaphor for the film. And so I suppose for me it was seeing that and understanding that that could be a beginning and also an end to the film.
All the shots of men being really silly and pompous always appealed to me, and so it's more a question of trying to keep those great shots in through the whole process. That's what I'd say.
It's a very anti-male film for some reason. I don't know.
You can keep going. Tell your part, Liza, as well.
We saw the parkour guys right at the very beginning, didn't we? The second day, I think, and we just knew they would be in the film. They were fantastic.
And I think from YouTube's perspective, we didn't have any control over the final film itself. So we basically reached out to the world and tried to bring as many people to take part as possible, and then dumped 4,500 hours of footage on Kevin and Joe's desk and let them get on with it. So, I mean, for us, it was extraordinary to see what they did with it rather than hoping certain things were in or weren't.
I don't know if anybody's mentioned, but we also sent out nearly 500 cameras, small digital cameras, to places, far-flung places where people don't have easy access to the internet. And that was brought up a very rich crop of material, including Abel, the shoeshine boy from Peru, was one of those cameras. So that was part of their intention.
We have another big question that keeps coming and coming and coming over here, and that is, this one's from Argentina. It says, "Are you trying to make everyone a vegetarian?" The slaughterhouse.
Well, I wish I was a vegetarian.
I'm a
But I'm not.
vegetarian.
But Liza is. It was the
Well, that's the producer.
producerial
Okay.
pressure. No, I mean, every day on Earth, tens, if not hundreds of thousands of animals are killed and slaughtered for us to eat them, and not to show that seems kind of hypocritical in some way, doesn't it? I don't know.
And you did it in such a beautiful way with the women singing, and you took us into it almost too gently, and then, yeah, you got
The cow gets its revenge at the end of the film, actually.
That's true.
The whole process was full of these strange coincidences, and one that Joe only pointed out to me a couple of days ago, which I hadn't known about, was that cow, which has been killed, is in Milan, and then the very next shot is of a man eating spaghetti bolognese, and I only just figured out, or he only just told me, that this is actually in Milan as well, which is quite strange. So we figured that they might be from the same herd, even.
The other question that came up was, what that I just saw over there, what did you get the most of? What was the one kind of shot?
We got, for our researchers, they would spend 10 hours watching Rushes every day, and I suppose they would say teenagers whining in their bedroom.
So Betty, you lucked out. You got in the car.
And people, it's a very unusual thing, but we had so many people following their own feet. I mean, a couple of times, we tried to...
You had that whole sequence with just feet and walking.
Yeah, you could go on forever. You could actually make probably a 10-hour film of people just walking across the surface of the Earth. It could be an art installation. Maybe we should work on that.
We mainly got happy footage. It was really interesting. We hardly got anything that was particularly traumatic or sad, did we? Or dark. We wanted to go darker at the end of the film, and it was a real struggle to find any dark material.
We didn't know it. That's the opposite of programming Sundance. Most of the time. I'm going to get you some. Then we're going to come and start taking questions from you. That one. Do you think there is another completely unique Life in a Day version from the remaining footage?
I think,
That's
as many directors as there are out there to want to make films from this footage, there are that number of films. There's umpteen number of films in this footage, and we just chose, what appealed to us, and it's therefore a very subjective selection.
There's a particular question for the family with, I don't know what the little boy's name is, but it was a question about Bobby. Bobby? Yeah. And they want to know if you're doing okay. There's a lot of concern for you. And we have a mic over here, so you can actually talk.
I'm doing good.
I think that's all you're going to get.
Well, and even like the family itself, there's a few questions about, did the film actually help change you? Did it help you get through? There's kind of questions like that. Maybe from mom. Yeah, you can stand up.
Did it help us get through the situation?
Yes, yes.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I think as we've looked back at the footage and we've seen how far we've come since that day and all that we had to go through, it's just, yeah, it was very healing.
Wait, you ran out.
Oh, like that? Boom, boom. Okay.
There we go.
Oh, okay. But we didn't realize that would come from this experience, and it most certainly did. And I'm doing good. I'm all done with my treatments, and thank you.
Is that the boy who's the gymnast guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, or not gymnast, and steals the which keeps popping up over here. Very much concern over the stealing, young man. You just did that for the movie, right? You don't really.
I think, do we have a translator? Yeah.
Oh.
Это была как бы моя жизнь. У меня было одно время, что не было совсем ничего есть, как бы, и по обстоятельствам приходилось, что как бы приходилось воровать. Вот. Но для меня это ничего страшного. Для меня это нормально.
At one point in my life, I had no money and I had to eat, and so I had to steal.
Well, don't do it again.
Okay.
Now you're at Sundance. You're a star. And we'll start taking questions from the audience as well. Give us a chance to get you a mic to you. We have mics out here. Yeah, let's take one from right here.
Hello, thank you. That was a great film. Why did you choose not to show where the footage came from?
Well, we actually had a lot of debate about that, and initially I thought we would. I thought we'd put it in the top left-hand corner or something, what country, maybe what city it was from. But actually, when we tried that, just tested it, it felt amazingly distracting and kind of reductionist in a way. I think the point is, once you've got the conceit that this is from everywhere around the world, in a way it doesn't actually matter where it's from. We are going to actually put, I think, when the DVD of this comes out, we're going to do a DVD extra where you can switch it on and you can see where it's all from. Joe will be able to tell me how many countries are actually, the 192 countries sent material in, but I don't know how many are actually represented. Do you know?
I don't know.
Damn.
Do you have more? No. Because I think he's here, the Dubai garden worker, somebody shot that footage. Oh, right, you. The question is, how did you choose him, and was he happy to be a part of this? This is from Canada.
Yeah, I mean, I chose Ayamate because actually a colleague of mine sponsors him, so for him to live in Dubai. And I kind of, heard about his story and the fact that he's living over there and he's, earning money to send back and look after his family, which he's done really impressively, and, managed to get his daughter married and pay a big dowry, which is a, really, really proud thing. And yeah, I mean, yeah, he was really open to being filmed. He was completely for it, really. He just carried on his day, and we went out and documented it and just hung out with him, really. And a friend of mine, Shazadi, came, who can speak Hindi, and I just asked, a few questions, and then she would translate, and he just carried on, yeah. So it was a good experience.
And there's another one for you guys over there. Yeah, no, I don't like that one. For the filmmakers and for you guys right here, this is an interesting question. Has this process changed anything that will change the way you make films in the future? How is it, and basically it's sort of like, and there's a lot of them about this, is how has this changed you as an artist?
Well, I suppose there's a few things that I'm never going to forget, apart from this evening and all these people being here, and it was just been incredibly touching to me. I think one of the things is I've got this great appreciation now for kind of the beauty of amateur footage and the kinds of things you can do with little tiny camera that you can't do with a big professional camera. And so one of the specific examples I was thinking of is the guy who picks up the fly from the window pane and walks out with it, films it and lets it go. You couldn't do that with a film. It would cost you a fortune. How would you do it? It would all be CG. And I think there's something about that kind of intimacy which is really beautiful and which I'd like to bring into my own work. And I suppose I was struck by the beauty of a lot of the shots, actually. I mean, Boris's stuff, which is in Ukraine, of goat and sheep farmers, is incredibly beautiful. And I thought,
which one's Boris?
Boris is there.
Oh, there he is. Right. Okay.
He told me it's influenced by a Parajanov film. That's right. Which he gave me, the Parajanov film. The beauty of it was really striking. There's lots of ideas in there to steal. You know, if you're a commercials copywriter, you know, you should really be stealing a lot of ideas from this.
And is he a filmmaker?
Are you a filmmaker?
All the time? Sorry, I blew that one. Sorry.
Are you a filmmaker?
Are you a professional filmmaker?
Последние 5 лет я работал локейшн-менеджером и всегда хотел снимать кино. Начал заниматься этим только ради того, чтобы узнать о кинопроизводстве. Этот проект позволил мне осуществить свою мечту.
I worked as a location manager and always wanted to make movies, and now my dream came true.
I think it might be only starting for you. There's more dreams ahead. We're going to take some more questions from out here. Can we get them? We'll go to you right here in the blue shirt, and then there's okay, we'll go to you. He has a mic. And then we'll come to you in the blue shirt.
The question I wanted to ask is, what is the message you hope the general audience will get from seeing this film?
Good question.
Well, I suppose it sounds like a cliche, and maybe the danger with this film was always that it would feel like a Coca-Cola commercial. You know, it would feel like we are the world and we're all together and we're one. But actually, that is sort of the message. The message is about connection, and that we're all kind of connected. It's one of the things that the internet has succeeded in doing. It's made us all feel very, very connected and more conscious of the globe as a whole. And I think that can only be a good thing.
Can we get the mic to this guy right here, because I promised him. And there's another guy up here, too, that we're going to get a mic to. Go ahead.
Yeah, my question is for the girl at the very end. Is it Betsy? Okay. My question is hopefully it's not too heavy, but compared to the 24th of July last year, how do you compare that day to this day and to now that what you've seen and been with all these people?
Like, how do I feel now? I don't know if I can. Well, I mean, then it was, I don't know. I almost felt like by myself in a way, and now I met all these people, and I can't even compare it. It's 100 times better now. And that's basically it. I love all these people. I love them.
And I heard that your family's having a viewing party, right, in Illinois. so, hey, shout out to them. Illinois! And we had in the balcony, there she is.
Hi, you cover so much of life in this movie, but there were 2 parts I found missing, and I was wondering if it was by choice or lack of options: intercourse and death.
There's lots of death. Death of animals, and there's 24 people dying at Love Parade, and there's a lot of in the fear section, people talking about death and it's their greatest fear. So death, I think, is pretty well covered. Intercourse, which is a very old-fashioned word, but I think you're not allowed to say the more common word on YouTube, so I'm not going to. There wasn't any. Either that or they censored it before it came to us. I don't know what happened.
There was there's a shot of a lady looking back at the man who's holding the camera with a look that can only happen after
Yeah,
intercourse.
I caught that. Yeah. It was a good shot. And we know he's not getting any, so. Poor guy. Oh. Sorry. He's got-
Good news, I'm single now.
Oh. So we had another question out here, but there's a question about the, I don't know if it's Indonesia or not, the ritual. I think it was where...
Yeah, I think it's Bali, it's Soma, isn't it? Who shot that, who's somewhere here.
Is it Indonesia?
Bali?
In Bali, okay. Because it wasn't identified with I think it's about the woman doing the ritual with the food. And there's some questions like, what is that?
She was doing offerings for full moon.
Yes.
Yeah.
For full moon.
Yeah, in Bali, they tend to do offerings every day for different things. So they go around the house with little rice offerings. And I was really lucky on that day. She was doing kind of really elaborate, putting it all different, I guess, the corners of the house and blessing the machinery and blessing the bike. They do that for a lot of different ceremonies.
Thanks. We need another question out here. Right
There goes
there.
my camera. At the risk of having misunderstood the comment about teenagers whining in their rooms and then the young lady having spoken from her car, I just wanted to say that I don't think you were whining. I think it's ironic that you were talking about your experience after we had just heard what the rest of the world was doing while you were at work. And I'm absolutely thrilled that you spoke about your experience that day.
That was me who tied it together. That wasn't a good tie together, but you're right. Just because she looks kind of teen-like, that's all I did. We have another blue shirt guy here. Everybody's wearing blue tonight. Everybody in blue gets to answer a question. But also, what is the main difficulty in editing thousands of videos, this is from Brazil, into 90 minutes? And do you have any regrets not having, what? Are there any scenes that you regret not having in the film?
Loads and loads and loads and loads. But we needed to find a structure and we needed to select things. And so, as I say, you could make many more films out of what we had. Joe, maybe.
There's going to be another 45 minutes on the DVD of all the scenes. The original cut that we saw was 3 hours, and we wanted to keep everything in the 3-hour cut. So we had a really difficult decision process, didn't we, to cut basically half of it out.
You feel, as an editor, you feel guilty about the things you have to cut out. And you can't imagine how guilty one feels about the great stuff we had that we didn't use.
But I think it's also good to mention that all the footage that was submitted is still available to view on the internet, and there's this amazing gallery that you can view and browse by tags that people have provided with their footage. So it's all out there, and actually all that footage has received over 5 million views since it was submitted. So everyone's sort of submissions are being seen.
I know I was over, we have a thing on Main Street here in Park City where you can go through and choose things. There are people in there who are here that were looking for their footage all day, people who had contributed and now are here as well. I mean, they're not these people, but it was fascinating. So that just goes on and on and on. And do you think, there are a few questions like all through the day, do you think of this as something that you might do a sequel of? Will this become something, or is this it for you, or you're going to pass the baton to somebody? Is
I think
July
I'll pass the
July
baton.
24th going to be that day for?
No, you know what I'd love to do is I'd love to do a sort of 7-Up thing and go back and visit some of these people again in 10 years or 7 years. And I think that would be really fascinating. But I don't know, Joe says he's going to spend the rest of his life doing this. He loved it so much. It's a perfect job for a megalomaniac editor.
And do you have any questions that you haven't asked of these guys as the director?
That I haven't asked of them.
Yes.
Well, no. I mean, we've met a couple of nights ago, and we had the strangest dinner party ever. We all turned up, and nobody knew anybody. We had nothing in common at all, except that everybody had contributed to this movie. And now everyone's firm friends and getting on like a house on fire. And Abel there is playing with Tai Chi, who's at the back there, who's playing with his shoes as we speak. And it's incredibly. It is a sort of personification of of what the film's about. Of basically, cultural difference is pretty skin deep.
This is coming in. When will this film come out in the theaters? We couldn't get into the screening tonight in Park City and watched it from home and want to see it again.
Well, that's good. Well, National Geographic, who are down here, National Geographic Films, are going to distribute it theatrically. I don't know if it's 100% set when it's going to be released, is it? So it looks like it's going to be July 24th this year, which was an original idea.
Okay, clever.
Clever.
Yeah, it's good. Oh yeah, there you
go. So when you started, this is to Tim and Joe, when you started, did you think it would turn out this good? And if when you started you weren't confident it was going to be, if you didn't know it was going to be this good, then when did you kind of know what you had on your hands?
Well, to begin with, we always didn't call it a film, we called it an experiment. Because in an experiment you can fail. And then when we started to realize it kind of worked, we stopped calling it an experiment. Is that fair?
Yeah, totally.
You called it, and you told me, because we came on early too. I was on a road actually in Cannes when this all came together. So this is the first film that Sundance has ever taken before it was even made, actually. And it was sort of like, well, what size theater? And then later we just went for broke and went for the Eccles. But that was even still before we saw it, because I just had this feeling, because it was talking to you, and you talked openly about the risk, and I knew if I talked to you, if I got what I wanted, that it would all work, and you were very good in that conversation. I think the soccer game was going on. You are. But I think the soccer games were going on, people were screaming in the back, and it was...
That's right, we were sitting in our little sweaty editing room in Greek Street in London. And yeah, a lot of work between then and now.
There's one for, I don't know what your name is, but the guy who came out to his grandmother, and they want to know something about that dog. seemed to know that something bad was going on and decided
she's
to
homophobic. Yeah, my dog's homophobic.
And actually, dogs played a great part, but is that your dog? That also came up.
Yeah.
These are the questions that come across. Is that your dog?
It's my dog, yes. It is. And we've grown closer since then. Her name is Chipotle, and now she accepts me for being gay. It's a good thing.
How are we doing? Right here? Or is there somebody with a mic? All right, sorry. We'll come back to you. Get this guy a mic.
The snail at the end ate the piece of paper that said mind your own business, which makes me believe that it's okay to ask virtually any question without sounding too nosy, but I'm curious what happened to the mother of the little boy in Japan.
Did I hear right? Here it comes right behind you. There we go.
8ヶ月前、撮影の8ヶ月前に病気で亡くなりました。
My wife died 8 months before we shot this film.
I think he wants to say something. Okay.
Wow.
That's going to bring in the ratings. Up in the balcony.
Okay, so at one point in the movie, you directly connected the Afghani photographer with the army wife. Is there a reason you connected the photographer with an army wife instead of like somebody that was directly in the military fighting the Afghanis or something like that?
It just seemed to be better footage. It seemed to be more interesting and more surprising view of Afghanistan and of the conflict. We've all seen a lot of footage, news footage in Afghanistan, in army bases and that kind of thing. And we wanted to stay away from stuff that felt current affairs-y, that felt newsy. But that was the human cost, I guess, she was bearing of what's going on. And then obviously the intercutting of them both. It's kind of giving you a different perspective from both sides of the war. You don't usually hear about the wife who's left behind. And you don't usually see that side of Kabul, that side of Afghanistan. Just an ordinary guy going about his work and wandering around the town. It goes contrary to, as he says himself, against the image of a country that's just full of suicide bombers and violence and misery.
Yeah, he was a very cool guy. I liked him.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, he was going to come, but as I said, visa problems.
Yeah. I know somebody, I promised them. Did they ever get you a mic? Here, come right here.
Don't only have a question. I just wanted to thank you, Kevin, and you two for allowing people that can never really get to this point. And, you know, I've been coming here to Sundance for 7 years in a row. Brought my father for 3 years in a row. We enjoy it. And as a filmmaker, I just want to thank all of you and thank you two for allowing it to happen. Unfortunately, I'm computer illiterate. I tried to get it uploaded. I couldn't. So I hope I'm not out of line. I brought this from my home. Kevin, this is a hard copy of My Life in a Day, July 24th. Please accept it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
We will promise that somebody here with that guy right there or this guy right here will get it online for you. Yep.
You know, one thing I'd like to say is that one of the striking things was the generosity of people, not just the generosity of their sort of time and thinking about a project, but you know, the generosity of spirit in what they sort of contributed on this film. It's very humbling to be part of that. You know, that this enormous, you know, no people didn't expect to even be in the film, or maybe not even properly viewed. Yeah.
And Liza said it, that there wasn't very much bad footage. It was all pretty much human and uplifting, which I found that's pretty fascinating, actually.
We felt really positive about mankind without sounding too cheesy at the end of the process. That
I mean, the internet is a place where people, you know, associated with pirating and nasty comments, and here was this very positive experience of the internet.
I think it's totally uplifting. I totally feel good about it. It's like, you know, something like this that just tells these simple stories. You see that we're not all that different from each other. I mean, that sounds kind of corny, but it's really what it's about. Do we have time for one more?
Okay, just want to say congratulations to everyone. It's a fantastic film. Well done, everyone. My question is,
he's
Kevin,
a plant. I know him.
Yeah. My question is actually, if you were not the director and somebody had given you the camera, what would you have shot?
Yeah.
Well, luckily I had a sort of out, you know, which was that I couldn't put my own footage in, possibly, because that would be, you know, narcissistic, and so I didn't want to be too narcissistic. But what would I have shot? I mean, I actually encouraged my wife to shoot something, and she had her mother had just had a terrible stroke 2 weeks before, and we went down to visit her for the first time, and she was in hospital, and I gave her a camera, and she went to the hospital and she didn't film anything because she thought that her father wouldn't like it, and I kind of totally understand that, because, you know, to share something that personal and that profound, like a lot of these people did here, is incredibly brave. And I suppose the truth is that I'm probably not brave enough or generous enough to do that myself. It's probably a terrible admission, but I think it's probably the truth. So that makes my admiration for these contributors so much more.
And I think you were doing what I was doing. We were all wringing our hands, hoping that at least 10 people did this, and it turned into, what was the total number of pieces?
Well, when we first started talking about it, we thought we'd get 10,000 submissions, and we actually got 80,000 submissions.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the biggest project YouTube.
Yes. So 80,000 videos, 4,500 hours of footage. So it was quite an extraordinary response from all over the world.
And did you have to, when that's coming in, did you have to like create a whole new system for that? Because it just doesn't, you know, it's different than.
Yeah, I mean, so there were two systems. I mean, there's the system where it comes into YouTube, and that's kind of what you see in the gallery, and you can explore. And then obviously these guys built their own system to kind of process it in a kind of more artistic way.
How are we doing on time? One more. So this is like, do I go to the computer or go human? Then we're going to go human right there.
Thank you. I wanted to say to the father of the little boy who's the shoe shiner, first of all, your son is amazing, and that was a spectacular piece of the film. I wanted to ask you what it was like to see your son on the big screen and to hear all the reasons he loves you.
His father's actually sitting there in the audience.
Oh, so sorry. I thought he was on stage.
No, he is the filmmaker who shot No,
He's coming
This
up
is the
now.
father
Abel.
here.
Oh.
A ver, es el papá.
En primer lugar voy a saludar. El señor John Wagner, ¿no? ¿Se llama?
Sí, Joe Walker es el
Señor John Wagner, le agradezco muchas gracias en esta ceremonia que has entrevistado a mí, a mi hijo, a todos que hemos venido del Perú. Muchas gracias, le agradezco mucho. Y sobre eso, aparte también que con mi hijo estoy muy alegre, muy contento, señor. Le agradezco mucho, bastante, con alegría estoy actualmente. Y a mi hijo, yo nomás me cuido y le doy sus alimentos, no tiene madre. Eso nomás todo lo que le he recomendado, señor. Muchas gracias.
He wants to say, Joe, that thank you so much for interviewing him and his son earlier today. Thank you for the time and for this adventure, and that his son doesn't have a mother, and it's like a very great experience, and he really thanks you, and thank you all and everyone.
I think we can all end on a thank you. I want to thank YouTube especially, who's been a sponsor of ours for many years. We've done many crazy experiments together, and I love them as a sponsor, and I thank them for that. And of course, Scott Free for allowing us to show it here at Sundance, and you two guys for pulling this thing off.
Thanks very much, Sean.
Thank you.